Hi, it's time for good energy, and I'm Dr. Julie, and welcome to Bodyful Day 102. We're talking about shortness of breath in the senses, and today we're talking about the kinesthetic sense. And this is the final day in our series on shortness of breath, and the kinesthetic sense is the sense of where your joints and muscles are in your body. It is in essence proprioception, where they are moving, where they are going. It gets information from the joints, from the tendons, from the muscles themselves. And when we talk about shortness of breath, we're talking about a decrease in the usual pattern of motion in those ribs and spine. So let's start with our basics. Let's go ahead and take a deep breath in and release. On this next deep breath in, you're going to take a deep breath in through the stomach and expand through that chest, expand through your sinuses and tuck your tailbone. Take a deep breath in and release. And because we are talking about kinesthetic sense and shortness of breath, I want you to think about breathing into a place where things have a tendency to feel like they're stuck, and that's going to be like that lump in your throat. I want you to imagine breathing right into this collarbone notch. So as you take a deep breath in, imagine expanding this spot right here. Deep breath in and release. All right. So we have talked about all the senses. We've talked about how these senses can be both good energy and stressors. So remember, we're working from the healing equation. Energy to heal equals good energy and minus stressors. And when we talk about how various parts of the body, various senses can be good energy and stressors, this is no different when we're talking about the kinesthetic sense. In the kinesthetic sense, shortness of breath can be brought on because it feels like something is not moving. The classic example is a rib being out of place up here in this left shoulder. A lot of people experience left shoulder, rib sliding out of position, and then the muscles around it becoming tense, so that when you take a deep breath in, you can't, because that hurts. Broken ribs are another great place to think about. I want to take a deep breath in, but as I do, all the little nerve endings around that, or in the inflammation around that break, are going to ache and pull and stretch. And so that deep breath in is going to be inhibited. The other thing to think about, and we've talked about this with acid reflux, we've talked about this with digestive things, we're going to talk about it in a session on bloating coming up at the end of the month, that when you have tightness and yuckiness here, like you've got either acid reflux or you've got bloating in this upper part of the belly, it is very hard to take a deep breath in. So what can you do when you experience that sensation? Well, you can think about breathing into it in a very careful way, especially if we think about a broken rib, or you can decide that there are other parts of your ribs that can expand. Let's say you have a rib out of place up here in this upper left shoulder. Instead of breathing into that upper left shoulder, see if you can expand into the right ribs. It sounds difficult, but if you imagine the air going right into this side and maybe pushing up against the back of your chair with the back of your right ribs, or even just putting your hand, so you can actually do this. You can put both hands on either side of your belly, and you can try to just make the right side go up and down. You do have the capacity to breathe in one side or the other. Try breathing into the left side only. Where you put your focus, your kinesthetic sense will think, okay, I can expand a little bit more in this location. So if you know that everything on the left side is going to be painful because you've broken a rib or you put a rib out of place, then really when you get a chance to, when you are not stressed about not being able to take a deep breath in, when you are more relaxed and there are other things going on, you can try expanding into the opposite side. We've also done when we've done our single breath breathing today, over this week, we've talked about breathing into your lung apices, breathing in the upper parts of the lungs. We've also talked about breathing into the back of the lungs. If you set your mind on it and you can imagine those ribs expanding, that is the kinesthetic sense. That is you saying, I can expand that region. So we've done this already, but go ahead and try just breathing into this upper part of the lungs. Take a breath in. When you focus there, you can feel your traps and you can feel your collarbones go up, which then invites more space in there for air. Likewise, if you tell yourself, I'm going to breathe into the lower back, into the back ribs down here, into the back part of the lungs, and you have something to push up against, let's say you can push up against a wall, you can actually breathe and kind of push those back ribs up against that wall, giving your lungs more space in the back. So if you've got something to lean up against that and take a deep breath in. And release. I kind of envision myself as a beetle when I breathe into my back ribs because I imagine that they're expanding up and out like beetle wings, or just kind of taking that space. So kinesthetic sense is, where are your muscles and joints in space? And if part of that area is isolated because you've got, if we think about pneumonia, it feels like you can't breathe into here. And of course it's going to limit the amount of oxygen that you get in. But remember, you've got all of this space up in here, this back space up here and this front space up here that you can breathe into. And so if you're still saying, I can't breathe a deep breath, then concentrate on imagining and really think that air into those upper rib spots. It's not going to be as big of a breath because you can't get here, but it's going to give you more space. Likewise, when we talk about it, sometimes we can talk about breathing. In the beginning, we always talk about breathing into your sinuses. If you breathe into your head, again, you're not getting oxygen up into here, you're just allowing your sinuses to expand. But you're also giving your sinuses more room to get air down into, which then also gives you a little bit more comfort, like you're not struggling for breath. So imagine the entire pathway, and each of those have muscles and joints that can shift, that can give you just a little bit more space than the quick, short breaths because you can't breathe. Think about a space that you think is healthy, breathe into it, and you'll find that your mind concentrating